It's Cece's Spooktacular October month-long thingamajig Halloween-themed video event. Hey guys, it's Cece, and I am here today to share with you some monthly recommendations. So this month's theme for monthly recommendations is Monster Mash. Yes, that is right. I am talking all about books that feature monsters. Any kind of monsters, really. I mean, when I talk about monsters, I am talking vampires, werewolves, zombies, Frankenstein monsters, boogeymen, witches and wizards, fairies, ghosts, demons, angels, mummies, robots, artificial intelligence. If there's a monster, then it's available for me to recommend to you. I have 7 recommendations to share with you today. In case you don't already know, Monthly Recommendations is a Goodreads group that was created by Kayla Rain of the channel Kayla Rain and Trina of the channel Between Chapters, and I will leave the links to both of their channels plus the link to the Goodreads group down below so that you can go and check it out and join in on future monthly recommendations topics. But like I said, I have 7 books to share with you, each with a different type of monster, so let's just jump right into these recommendations. The first book that I would like to recommend to you is Nimona by Noelle Stevenson. This is a graphic novel, and the main character is indeed a monster. She's a shapeshifter, and she falls in with the notorious villain Ballister Blackheart, but her problem with Ballister Blackheart is that none of his villainous plots are evil enough, and she's going to make them more evil. Like I said, Nimona is a shapeshifter. She shifts into basically anything, and it's a completely fantastic graphic novel in general. It has a lot of Noelle Stevenson's humor and charm, and the art style is really sweet, but there's definitely an undercurrent of something deeper going on with Nimona, and it gets pretty deep into her character at the end. This is not necessarily like all a light, happy graphic novel. It gets into some serious stuff, but Nimona is a fantastically interesting monster, and this is a fantastically interesting graphic novel. Next book that I'm going to be recommending features ghosts. Lots and lots of them. I'm talking about the Skinjacker trilogy by Neal Shusterman. The first book is Everlost, but there are 3 total: Everlost, Everwild, and Everfound. The main characters of all of these books are ghosts. Basically, in the first book, the lead characters get into a car accident and they sort of become ghosts, and they find other children who are ghosts, and there's kind of a mystery as to why it's just them, why it's only children, what's the deal with ghosts. Plus they all have really weird things they can do. Some of the older ghosts are more powerful. It's super interesting. It's a fantastic trilogy. Neal Shusterman's writing is always really impressive, and he has plenty of other books that feature monstrous main characters, but I absolutely love this series, and I don't think it gets recommended enough. It's just a really great trilogy with like an entire ghost cast. So this guy would like it. The next one that I want to recommend to you is Pride and Prejudice and Zombies by Seth Grahame-Smith and Jane Austen. Basically, this is the text of Jane Austen, but it has been changed and altered and added to make it about zombies, basically. This is such a fun book. Like, if that topic doesn't appeal to you, then I guess you might not like this, but as someone who loves Jane Austen and as someone who really likes humorous zombies, this book just works for me on a number of levels. Like, my copy of Pride and Prejudice and Zombies is so much nicer than my copy of Pride and Prejudice, which is ridiculous, but it's just because this is so much fun. I believe the first line of the book is, "It is a truth universally acknowledged that a zombie in possession of brains must be in want of more brains." I think that's kind of how it gets in there. And the Bennet sisters are like the most renowned zombie killers in all of England. It's hilarious. It still has all of the romance of Pride and Prejudice, but it adds a really fun twist. So I like it. You don't have to watch the movie. I don't think the movie did nearly as good a job, but the book knows it's being silly, and it's great. The next book that I'm going to recommend to you is Phantoms by Dean Koontz. It's been a while since I've recommended this one. Man, what a ride this book was. Basically, this book begins with 2 sisters, an older one and a younger one, and through some series of events, the younger sister is going to live with the older sister. So the older sister goes and gets her, they drive into the older sister's town, and it's deserted. No one is around, they have no idea what's going on, so when they start to investigate, most houses are empty, but some of them, there are bodies, dead bodies, of the people that the older sister used to know, and they have an expression of terror frozen forever on their faces. And so they kind of have to get into this. They don't know what's going on. They try to call in backup, and basically a lot of creepy stuff goes down. This is compulsively readable. It is scary at times. Like, thinking back on it, I'm like, that doesn't seem like it would be that scary. But in the moment that I was reading it, I was actively scared by it. And I think that it is always impressive when a book manages to actually scare you. The characters are maybe not the best characters ever written, but the adventure in general is really fun and really fast-paced and really intense, and this is a great book to go to. It is my favorite Dean Koontz that I've ever read, so yes. The next book that I'm going to recommend to you is Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. This is the first book in a trilogy as well. There are two others, Days of Blood and Starlight and Dreams of Gods and Monsters, but these are all about demons and angels. That's kind of all I ever want to say about this series, because I think that so much of it is about discovering the story. It's really beautiful in the way that it's written, but there is a lot of mystery involved. You start out in Prague, and your lead character is named Karu, and she has some very odd friends. So you just kind of have to get in there and learn all about it. It's kind of, you'll know from the very first line that it's kind of about a doomed romance that happened or will happen, so it's really, really good. This type of young adult is not what I usually go for, but it's actually super interesting, really based on mythology, which I do love. I love mythology, and it's a really great series overall. The next series that I'm going to be recommending, I mean it's a book, but it's a series, is Shiver by Maggie Stiefvater. This is the beginning of a series as well. There's Shiver, Linger, Forever, and I believe there's now a fourth book called Sinner. It's been out for a few years, but I haven't read it. This series is about werewolves, basically. It came out a few years after Twilight, but it was like during that time. It definitely is very reminiscent of like when all of these books were coming out that were about vampires and werewolves. It's very reminiscent of that time, but the lead character is a girl named Grace, and one day she goes into a bookstore and she meets this guy and she thinks he's really cute, but as you come to learn about Sam, he is also a werewolf. But the rules in this world about werewolves are very, very different from the ones you know. It's very based on other stuff. It's been long enough that I've read it that I don't remember what is going to spoil you and what isn't. It's really interesting. I think it has some really solid writing. I mean, it's by Maggie Stiefvater, so it is reminiscent of like all of those werewolf and vampire books, but it's got her writing style on it, which I think really elevates it. And it's a thoroughly enjoyable series. I haven't read Sinner. It's a spin-off about a different character in the series, and I just don't have that much interest, but the main three books are really, really good, and I really enjoyed them when I read them. The last thing that I'm going to recommend is actually a short story, and that is Carmilla by Sheridan Le Fanu. This is such a good short story. I don't think I talked about it at any point in any wrap-ups this year, but I read it last semester at some point, and it's really, really good. It's just sort of like a gothic mystery, and it is actually the first piece of vampire fiction. It predated Dracula, so... Plus it's very like formative lesbian fiction. That is what it's also very well known for, and it's like fairly explicit considering it's gothic fiction. It's like, it's definitely gay. There's also, you know, a YouTube series based on Carmilla that's incredible if you haven't watched it yet. It's about lesbians and vampires and mysteries, and this as a short story is incredibly fun. You can get through it quickly, but it's spooky and silly and fun and vampire-tastic, and I highly recommend that you check it out because I think it's pretty easy to find, so this is a great thing to read when it's spooky and you want to be spooked. Okay guys, there you go. Those are all of my monthly recommendations for this month for the Monster Mash theme. I hope that you enjoyed hearing some of these books. I hope that you check some of them out and enjoy reading about the monstrous stuff. If you have book recommendations of books that feature monsters, please leave them down below. Make sure to check out the Goodreads group and Trina and Kayla's channels, and I'll see you in another video very soon. Bye!